this next sheriff, this next patriot, the most important thing about him is he's my cousin. True story. I think he's second cousin once removed. His mother is my cousin, my second cousin. So whatever that is. I never knew what once removed means, but anyway. All I know is that I was really extremely proud that I had endorsed him when I saw him on Fox News one day saying how he was not going to enforce the COVID-19 mandates. And that he said, I remember he said, we're not going to shut anybody down. We'll go by the businesses and do a walkthrough and let them know that we're here and that we support them, that if there's any problems to let us know. And I said, what a great sheriff. What a great sheriff. And he was doing it against a Republican friend of his that happened to be the governor of Arizona at the time. And that governor happened to be wrong, and Mark opposed it. He did the right thing. Folks, I don't want to talk about Sheriff Mark Lamb anymore. Oh, except he's from the side of the family that doesn't have hair. I'm from the side of the family that does. But other than that, a great American, a great sheriff, and somebody I'm very proud of what he has done. I was thrilled when he did it then, and you're going to be thrilled to hear him speak. I had a little bit of a question, though. I didn't do the program. He's our keynote speaker, but he only gets 15 minutes. So I don't know how that worked, but he's a great speaker. We're grateful to have him. Sheriff Mark Lamb.
And he's wrong, you're not allowed to leave. I'm just getting up here to speak now. I'm Sheriff Mark Lamb. I'm from Pinal County, Arizona. We are the third largest county in the state of Arizona. Some of you may be like, this guy looks really familiar. So we did live PD. We did 60 days in. You may know Fridays with Frank. So I'm a sheriff, part-time, dabble in, 2-time Emmy Award winner. I'm not going to make a big deal of that tonight, though. All right. Recovering politician, because I just ran for Senate, didn't make it, but I put my hat in the arena, got in the fight. And more than anything, though, I'm a patriot. I'm a patriot. So, you know, I've been a cop for almost 2 decades, been a sheriff for 8 years now. People ask me all the time, Sheriff, what's it like being in law enforcement now with the way that the media treats you, with the way that politicians treat you guys, with the way that society treats you? And so look, 98% of the people we deal with are good people, decent people, normal people. Some make mistakes, we gotta hold them accountable. 1% of those people deserve to be in jail. And the other percent deserve to never see the light of day again. And half of that percent need to get out of politics. What you're going to find from me is I'm no politician. I am a patriot who loves God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. That's why I do what I do. Now, I think in this country, more than the epidemic, we have a crisis of honor and courage in this country. I'm going to talk a little bit about the courage first. This country was built on men and women of tremendous courage. You know, even in Boston, Bostonians were known better for resolving what to do than doing what they resolved. But when the English were the king was trying to pass on the tea without taxing the English, passing that tax right on to the American colonies, they said, whoa, 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 this is taxation without representation. And so on December 16th, they decided we've had enough of this, and they dressed up, climbed on the ships at night, took the tea, and threw the tea in the harbor. Now, why was this important? This is really what began to precipitate and escalate how the English started to treat the colonists. They started to really put their proverbial boot in their throat. They wouldn't let them have elections. They stopped holding trials by jury. They stopped doing a lot of things. As a matter of fact, when you read the Declaration of Independence, what they lined out, a lot of that was precipitated after they threw the tea in the harbor. But the reason I bring that up to you is what King George III wrote to the colonies and to the governor of America at the time. And he said, "The die is now cast. Either the colonies will submit or they will triumph." I've always loved that because there was no other option. Even the king knew you were either going to submit or you were going to triumph. What was it ultimately about? It was about freedom. And they had the courage to thumb their nose at the biggest government in the world, the Empire of England, the Kingdom of England, and they said, "We won't deal with this anymore." And that precipitated a lot of other things, ultimately a war, and ultimately our freedom today. That courage is lacking. There's a book by Rollo May called Man's Search for Himself, and in that book, it says the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it's conformity. In America, we have become conformists because it's easier just to go along to get along. The other thing I want to talk to you about is honor. Why am I talking about these things? Because this plays into what the position that I took when it came to COVID. Honor. Now, I was running this campaign for Senate, and all the way along, people are like, Sheriff, they'd ask me questions about the border, the economy, abortion, everything. And I had this military veteran one time ask me a question which I wasn't really prepared for. I was prepared for it. I didn't expect it. He said to me, he looked at me and he said, "Sheriff, what does honor mean to you?" Now, a lot of people will say honor means, putting the shopping cart back when nobody's looking, right? Or maybe if the cashier gives you too much money, you give him the change back. That is integrity. I looked at him and I said, without hesitation, I said, honor is doing what is right no matter what the consequence is. That is honor. So as we started getting into 2020, I was going back to New York every week. I was flying into New York on Wednesdays. We would do live PD, and then I would fly home on Thursday evening usually. And as we started seeing this COVID stuff popping up, one day I came back and I could see that it was escalating. It was escalating. They were instilling more and more fear into the people. And I came back, and I got to make sure that I don't get the hook from Rick here. I came back to my office, and you'll have to excuse because I'm not a cursor to tell you how important I thought this was. I came back to my chiefs and I looked at them, I said, "They're gonna try to shut this down. This is bullshit." And a few weeks before that, I was out with a guy and we were doing radio shows, we were talking about sheriff stuff, and I would come on like his sports show, and he would always message me. And one day he asked me, this is like a month before this, he said, "Sheriff, if COVID happens, when do you lock things down?" I said, "Never." I said, "This is America. We don't do that. I'm free. Look, if I want to go out in the middle of COVID, that's my prerogative as an American. If I want to go out, if there's fire-breathing dragons that are circling around and breathing fire on everybody that walks outside, that's my prerogative to go outside. Trust me, I live in Arizona. You can survive it. You can survive it." That's what freedom is. We don't just give it up. There are consequences with it. I love what Thomas Jefferson said. He said, "I prefer dangerous liberty to peaceful slavery." And ultimately, what we were dealing with was a challenge of our freedom. It wasn't a pandemic. They wanted to see how much of your freedom you would give up. I understood what my responsibility was as a sheriff. I've often been, when you hear me talk, people will say, "Well, Sheriff, I can't believe you talk like that. You're the government." I said, "Hold on. I'm not the government. I am your county sheriff. My job is to protect you from the bad guys and from government overreach. That's what my job is." And so as these guys started coming, they said, "Hey, we're going to shut things down." The governor finally says, Republican governor says, "Hey, we're going to shut things down." Now the media calls me, knowing they're probably going to get a pretty truthful answer. They call me and they say, "Hey, What do you think about the lockdowns? I said, oh, no, we're not doing that in Pinal County. And it went wildfire. But it wasn't a big deal to me, because people would say, Sheriff, was that hard? And I said, no, it wasn't hard. You know why? Because the line was so distinct in the sand of what was right and what was wrong, what was good, what was evil, what was freedom, what was slavery. All of that was very distinct for me. It wasn't challenging because I knew what was right. The question was, did I have the courage to do it? And did I have the honor to do what was right regardless of the consequence? I'm gonna tell you, the consequence wasn't easy. We were not far into COVID, and I had a pastor come to me. It was matter of fact, it was Easter Sunday. And he comes to me and he says, Sheriff, our patrons are really struggling. They're struggling emotionally, psychologically. They need to go to church. We need to do an Easter service. And I said, let's do it. You have my blessing. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Be prepared for the pressure these people will put on you. And I prepared. I said, I need you to understand that. Oh, no, we got this. So this was probably a Tuesday. Wednesday, they announced they're going to do a service. The people lose their mind, including their own parishioners. Remember, COVID, everybody, you didn't know. You could sit next to your family was fighting against family, church members against church members, friends against friends. It divided the country purposefully. So he comes back, and I can tell he's just getting hammered. And the media jumps in. And the media is interviewing me, and I say, hey, this is their constitutional right. It's in the First Amendment. As a matter of fact, it's the first thing in the First Amendment. So they have the right to do it. They know what the precautions are. They have the right to do it. We got to Saturday. I was scheduled to do an interview. I get on the Zoom to do the interview. 2 minutes before we're getting ready to do the interview, and it's a live interview, they said, hey, Sheriff, what do you think about the pastor canceling the service? I said, well, this is my real reaction because I didn't know. And so I do the interview and express my disappointment. I called the pastor after. I said, why did you not do this? And he said, Sheriff, we underestimated the pressure. You told us, we underestimated it. And I said, it didn't matter. The only guy that mattered was with you, me and God. But God, we're both with you. Until the churches take this back, we will never take back our country. The churches need to take this back. So we made a stand against it. Then when they tried to push the mask mandates, I'm going to be doing a little thing tomorrow. I'll tell a lot more about it tomorrow because you want to hear about me going to the White House and finding I had COVID and how they took me out the back like a two-bit whore after that. I mean, you're going to want to know that part. I'll get into all that tomorrow. So there's a lot more to this story and just what come along with it. But ultimately, what we were fighting for was the freedom of our citizens in our county. We stood against the mask mandates. We stood against the vaccine mandates. And we stood against it all. I'm a lover of this history of this country. And the honor and the sacrifice that it took to build this country is something that I think we oftentimes forget and we overlook. And when people were saying can't be easy to stand against everybody when you're dealing with COVID pressure. And I just always would refer back to the stories of people like Abraham Clark. I don't know if you know who Abraham Clark was. Abraham Clark was one of the more normal founding fathers. He didn't wear the wigs. He didn't wear the ruffles. He insisted that the word liberty be on our money. He insisted that the Bill of Rights be part of our Constitution. He was from New Jersey, lawyer, signs the Declaration of Independence. He had 10 children. After they signed the Declaration of Independence, of course, things go off the rails. The English capture 2 of his sons, and they begin to torture his sons. One of his sons, the only food he would get was the food that they could push through the keyhole of the door. Unbeknownst to the other founding fathers, at one point, the English came to Abraham Clark and looked at him and said, if you will recant your signature on the Declaration of Independence, we will give you safe passage to the Tories and we will return your 2 sons. Any father or parent in here knows the dilemma of whether you would take your children or what was at that time only a hope and an idea of freedom. Without hesitation, Abraham Clark said, I will not recant my signature on the Declaration of Independence. Ultimately, and that's the type of honor that built this country, a man who put his signature on a piece of paper, that gave his honor, and no matter what the consequence was, he was there for it. He was down for the cause. That's the type of honor that we need now. That's the type of sheriffs and elected officials. I always say, because people ask me, are you a constitutional sheriff? I said, yes, I am. And why are you asking me that when you should be asking all these other elected officials who swore the same oath as I did to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all 4 enemies, foreign and domestic? Why not ask them that? 2 minutes. So 20 more? Come on, Rick. 2 minutes. We live in a country where every day, this is a battle of freedom. This is a battle of good and evil. We're in the battle for our lives. This is the Alamo of freedom. COVID was merely a warm-up for what they want to do to your freedoms. And unless we as a people recognize what is happening and take a stand and have the courage and the honor to do it, I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna lose friends, you're gonna lose family, you're gonna lose jobs, you're gonna lose money, which, by the way, I've been to a ton of death calls. Nobody ever takes their wallet with them. They get the clothes on their back, that's it. So let me just take that suspense off the table. So whatever money you have, it doesn't go with you anyway. This is the time. This is the fight. If we don't stand together as people, and I'll talk about it tomorrow, 2 Timothy 1:7. For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I'll talk about the power and the love tomorrow, but I'll finish off with this quote, because this quote was from Thomas Paine. This quote is from James Allen in the book, As a Man Thinketh. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you put it on your monthly reading list. It's a short book, so even the men can read it in here. It is I'm no dumb. I'm going to give the women a compliment, okay? It is a great book. But at the very end of the book is a great quote, and it goes towards being in control of your mind, having control of your spirit. And it says, keep your hand firmly upon the helm of thought. In the bark of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Wake him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace be still. Every one of us have a commanding master inside of us. You need to wake him or her up, and you need to get him up to the helm of the ship. And it will be only with honor and courage, with an undeviating path towards freedom and God, that we will restore and retain this country that so many great patriots sacrificed their lives and their fortunes and their honor that we could be free. God bless all of you here. God bless all of the sheriffs, elected officials, and law enforcement. And God bless America.
We're going to take a picture. You got 30 seconds to take this picture. 30 seconds, Don. 30 seconds, and then we're separating.
Let me get my screen shot. Go ahead, Rick.